Hello. On the 3rd of February, in an address to the nation on 3rd of February 2024, so Macky Sall, the president of Senegal, announced that by a decree that he was actually delaying the presidential election from February the 25th to December the 15th of this year, obviously. At the same time, extending the current term by another 10 months. So this decision sparked significant national turmoil in the country, with many repercussions on the international stage for Senegal, and rightly so. Why, you will ask me? Simply because that was the first time Senegal in its history has had to delay a presidential vote. Never happened before. They have had in the past four largely peaceful transition of power, so election by ballot box since they gained independence in 1960 from France. And they built up a solid reputation as West Africa's most stable democracies. Is that reputation at stake? What could be the impact on the solar sector, but also for renewables in general? This is what I would like to invite you to explore today for us to better understand what's happening there. Hello again, my name is Tony Chu. I'm the founder of CEO of Renewables in Africa. And if you're joining me, I'm very proud and happy to have you. So if you are, what we do, we're raising awareness about renewables energy in Africa and across the world. So if you are a project developer, an EPC, a supplier, an investor, and you're looking to break into Africa and to expand as well, definitely do reach out to us because I will show you how you can 10x your ROI. Yeah, definitely, and you won't be disappointed. Now, let me come back to Senegal because that's the topic of today. So, what really sparked the whole protest that we had? So, let me share with you the actual speech that happened on the 3rd of February, and maybe we can discuss that later. One second.
I have signed decree of February 3rd, 2024, repealing decree of November 29, 2023, convening the electoral. For my part, my solemn undertaking not to run in the presidential election remains unchanged.
It was this to the nation that threw Senegal into disarray after President Macky Sall cancelled the relevant law due to electoral issues he warned would fuel disputes. With little more than 3 weeks to go before the vote, the unprecedented step of delaying the poll to an unspecified date pitches Senegal into the uncharted constitutional waters that some opposition and civil society groups said amounted to an institutional coup. One opposition coalition has already vowed to challenge the move in the courts, raising the prospect of a protracted legal battle that could further muddy the democratic outlook.
Ce pays qui était le chantre de la démocratie.
A country that was a champion of democracy, a country had become a benchmark in Africa and the world, a country respected by all and everywhere. What has happened to bring us to this point? We are all sad. We are unhappy.
Nous sommes tous tristes, nous sommes malheureux.
Saul.
Okay, that was an extract of what's happening, what happened obviously on the 3rd of February as I described to you. So one second, I'm just gonna take this picture out. Yes, and now we're back into here. So definitely this has been very, let's say, surprising move by President Macky Sall, and as you could see, definitely set the a part of the country on fire, right? And the question we may want to ask ourselves: so, what could be the impact in our sector? And the reason I wanted to do this video is because I know a lot of people, watching investors or developers or even professional, they're asking this question. And when we sometimes talking about what could be some of the challenges that we see when you want to venture into the continent and how do we deal with some issues like, for example, what we're seeing right now. So here's a typical example, and I just wanted to use that to showcase what could be the potential concern that people could see. But before I dive into that, I think for me it was very important to first of all talk about the landscape for renewable in Senegal, because Senegal is very important country for renewables. So we need to understand that. See, the government of Senegal, so they made the power sector development a key component of the national plan that they had, which is called Plan Senegal Emergent, right? Which aim to actually take Senegal into emerging countries by 2025, meaning next year, right? That was the plan. And amongst all the different priorities that they set, say lowering the cost of generation by reducing their independence on imported liquid fuel was very important, yeah, and also increasing electricity access. And they've done a tremendous job, especially in rural areas. So they clearly have set, a significant example. Basically, they've shown significant example how we can actually fast track the development of solar into the country, right? And tap into the potential, and not just solar, but also wind, and the opportunity to explore as well the offshore natural gas. And I'm sure you're hearing a lot of conversation about natural gas in Senegal. And to illustrate this point a little bit more, so what I want to show in you with you in here very quickly. These political turmoil for the country. So what could actually happen? This is what I want us to look at very quickly now. obviously, you would imagine that with what is happening in Senegal at the moment, with the elections being delayed by the president, so President Macky Sall, obviously at the moment there's a lot of unrest and demonstration. Is he going to be able to hold to the new day that he set up? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you. But what I can definitely talk to you about already, it's what could be the potential impact that we are seeing. I'm pretty much sure people are really feeling that. Yeah. And one thing I can talk about here, it's definitely the political impact that we see for this decision. So why am I saying that? Simply because when you have such a delay, and that's what's happening in Senegal is actually important as well for any other country, being in Africa or outside of Africa, right? Simply because the sector of renewables energy depends a lot on the national policies, not the regulation. So when there is a delay like that in presidential election, I can imagine that this will have a disruption. That would cause some disruption in terms of implementation of renewable energy policies. By definitely prolonging the decision making process and creating uncertainty about future government priorities. Yeah, simply because remember I told you, or maybe I've not said that yet, but the plan for Senegal was definitely, move on to 40% power generation coming from renewable by 2030. Yeah. And at the moment, I think they are 30% or thereabout, right? So, how are we going to obviously progress going forward to make sure that we can reach the target that they set for themselves? Yeah. And I'm sure, like many countries, they're looking at setting them even more ambitious target. So, clearly, such an issue politically would definitely have an impact on renewables because you're looking at policies like feed-in tariff, tax incentive, renewable energy target. I've just mentioned that to you. They may be put on hold or not be fully enforced, until you have a new government in place. That's what you can see. And this uncertainty, the impact that it has, though, is that it can deter some investors and developers, both international and national, from committing to new solar projects, because they may be preferring here to wait until there is further clarity in terms of policy direction before making significant investment. And one we can understand them because most of the time, especially for utility scale projects or projects of this nature, so they require significant investment on the long term. So you want to have an idea on the horizon what's going to happen, right? So you want to be clear before you actually commit your money. And delay policy implementation, what it can also do is it can actually slow down the growth of the solar industry. And it can clearly as well hinder, the progress towards achieving the renewable energy target. I talked about the 40% renewable energy target, by 2030 that Senegal has done. So definitely politically, it's, I would say, damaging for the country. So it's important as well to recognize that. So now, and in terms of investment, go hand in hand, isn't it? Right? I already talked about the uncertainty that such a situation would create. Again, I just want to stress. So this is not something that is only happening for Senegal. In any country where you have, the political world that is jittering, yeah, it creates this uncertainty. And investment doesn't like uncertainty. Definitely the market don't like it. I'm sure you've heard it from many people before, and I can only back it up, right? So market don't like it. So investor confidence. So when you have political instability, so it kind of result from election delay. This can negatively also impact the investment climate in solar energy sector. And as I say, this is the biggest country in terms of renewable. If we're looking at in the West Africa, obviously, I'm talking about as per installed capacity today. Yeah, as I told you, they have close to half a gigawatt of renewables energy. Yeah, 300 with solar, about 150 for wind. That's about 450 megawatt that they have, right? So it's very important. So there's a lot of investment out there, and also there was a lot of investment already planned. So that's what I'm saying. I know investors must be they must be nervous, right? So they may perceive the country now, or at least for the short term, as high risk investment destination, which is, I would say, a little bit of a shame because the country fought so hard to earn this reputation as a stable country for investment in West Africa. So for the short term, they may be considered as a high risk investment destination, due to the uncertainties surrounding government stability, but also policy continuity. And as a result, that can at times decrease as well the foreign direct investment. Because for a project like the one I've shown you, the synergies, the Tab and GI. So all these projects, they've been able to move ahead, thanks to significant amount for donor countries and other external or private investors, right? So if this guy could see that, it's a little bit shaky at the moment, they may actually hold off a little bit for any new project that they were thinking about, or maybe if they're planning already to extend or to expand the current projects that are there. So very important. So maintaining investor confidence, I would say it's really crucial. We have to understand that. And the reason I'm saying that, so I'm also calling on politicians to pay attention to that. Restoring that investor confidence is important if you want to attract the capital that you need for you to fund the additional solar project and drive, the sector growth. Because as I say, so Senegal have made significant progress. And to be honest, like I say, and I still believe that it's a good place to go and do business. Good thing are happening in Senegal. Yes, at the moment they're going through a tough time. However, we shouldn't be also for investors. Don't be too quick to join the country. Give it a bit of time because even if more mature economies, yeah, you could see as well the thing happen. But it's also important to recognize what could be the potential impact that we want to look at that. Look at that. So we need to look at as investors watching or people looking to tap into the country. So I would strongly invite you to be looking at different strategies that could bolster confidence, or dealing with the actual uh, government in place. And the government of Senegal or the official of Senegal or the responsible for the sector, what you can do is to have transparent enough communication, regarding obviously the election process, but also assurance of policy continuity. That's what investors want to hear, you know, regardless of the election outcome. And I think that's the case because I believe I mentioned that. If I'm not mentioned that, let me say that across many countries in Africa, so whether across political boards, people are clearly basically focused on making sure that renewable is part of the agenda. Now, to what extent, it's the question. But the question of renewable is not something that we even debate anymore. It is there. Now, what could be the extent? That's what we're discussing. Should it be, let's say, a big priority? Not so much. That remains to be seen. But from this point of view, I believe there's a level of continuity. However, important for the official of Senegal to reinforce that so that it provides some confidence to to investor, right? And they need to make all the effort necessary to address their concern. Those, especially those no, I would say foreign, but also national partners, because in this country, I mean, don't make a mistake. People that actually suffer the most sometimes are the locals who are also investing into those countries, right? So the government should be doing everything to make sure that this is preserved and this is providing enough information. So the last one I want to touch upon in here, it's the challenge that could be coming from the regulatory side, right? Because when an election is delayed, this can lead to regulatory challenges in solar sectors. For example, it could be delays that one could see when you're looking to obtain permits and approval for solar projects. And you may have government agencies as well, right? Responsible for regulating the energy sector. So they could potentially experience some disruption, right, in or change in leadership, right? It depends, who is in power, So during that transitional period, things could be a little bit, flimsy, shaky, yeah, and it can result in some bottleneck, the administration, inefficiencies, and nobody likes inefficiency or bottleneck, yeah. And I say that, being somebody engaging a lot with government officials, dealing as well with different companies looking to invest into Africa. That's what we're actually very good at. Helping those companies to get into the continent or to expand the continent. We're very good at that, and that's what I'm saying. We're talking to a lot of people, and I know, one thing that's I would say uh, provide a lot of concern to many stakeholders in the industry. are those admin bottlenecks, and efficiencies. Yeah. And when you're having as well, so delays in the regulatory process, that can increase the project timeline, but also the cost. Yeah, because it makes it more challenging for developers to meet the deadlines, also the financial targets, which is not something that we want to see. And adding to that, I would say so uncertainty around the compliance requirement or regulatory changes, it may can also, as I say, deter the investment and also hinder the implementation of renewable energy projects. So clearly, as I say, it's important for people in power, for those officials, to address those regulatory challenges, to streamlining processes, enhancing coordination with government agencies, and providing clear guidance for stakeholders to help mitigate this risk and support and continue the growth into the solar sector. So this is something, as I say, that you should expect be seeing. Yeah. So, but all in all, having said that, I think I want to ask a question, to people are listening. So, what could be coming up next? I think, to be honest, nobody knows. I believe the decisions still need to be validated, if I understand that correctly, by the higher court of justice, or potentially the president, because he's under a lot of pressure at the moment, so can decide to reverse his decision. It remains to be seen. I can't tell you and say I don't have a crystal ball, but the one key question that I want to ask you, if you are an investor, if you are a business, operating into the field. So my question is very simple for you. So how do you protect yourself in such a scenario? So how do you handle that? Do you have the right political insurance solutions? Do you know how to navigate that? That's a key question, and I know it will be a concern for many of you. So, if that is something that concerns you, I will definitely ask you to definitely do reach out. So we may have a couple of insights that may be interesting for you, to the partners that could potentially provide you good good solutions to deal with this kind of scenario, and we'll be very happy to talk more regarding this. So, and I can only wrap up this conversation because we're coming to the end of it. So, by the way, if you have any questions, so feel free to ask your questions, and then I'll make sure I can reply to that or later. So, if you're not, I would say, if you prefer to be silent right now. But I just want to wrap up the conversation in sort of responding to the question that I've asked. So in this in this conversation, and the question was very simple. So the question is to know whether or not solar is in danger with everything's happening. So let me give you a straight and honest answer. So I would say, in the short term, yes, I believe solar it's in danger. On the long term, I'm hoping it's not the case, but only time will be able to tell us whether I'm wrong or right. Yeah, just for you to decide. So that's what I had to say to cover the topic of today. Hopefully, it gives you some insight for you to consider and to take forward. So I don't see any question that's popping up to my screen in here. So feel free to have your remarks. So thank you very much for watching us. And then next week we're gonna be following. We're gonna be talking about another topic of great interest, and I'm looking forward to see you. But don't forget, tomorrow already we continue with the one day, one concept idea, right? So that's it, Tony, to you from Renewables in Africa, and I wish you a very beautiful day. Oh, and don't forget, tonight we have the final, the AFCON final. So Nigeria against Cote d'Ivoire. So may the best wins and enjoy it. Have a good day, guys. Bye bye.